So tell us a little bit about Cathy Clark, starting with from the beginning. Where were you born?
I was born in Los Angeles, California, actually in the city of Los Angeles. My parents lived in near the UCLA campus. They both met at UCLA when they were in college. My dad was an engineering student, and he worked in my mom's sorority as a houseboy, and he met my mom, and they were married. My dad was an electrical engineer for Litton Industries at the time. So grew up around engineering and the aerospace industry, which is where he worked. He also owned a furniture company in southeast Los Angeles, near the Watts area. His mom had started that business, and so he took it over when she passed away and designed furniture, beautiful, handcrafted wood furniture. I still have some of those pieces.
Really?
Yeah.
It's kind of engineering, aerospace, and furniture.
Well, very creative. Any way you slice it, you still have to take geometry.
So what's your education background?
I graduated from Palos Verdes High School, which is in Palos Verdes, California. It's near actually where Lyndon grew up. And that was in '74. I went on to college at the University of California at Davis, and I majored in wildlife and fisheries biology. Very interested in ecosystems and wildlife, and then did the full double major with biological sciences. I had intended at one point to go to vet school, like a lot of girls, like animals, want to help them. I did work as a vet tech, but by the time I graduated, not really interested in moving on with the vet school, so I went to graduate school. I got in at Kansas State University, and I finished a research project on fish parasites. So I went into immunoparasitology, and
your family must have been so proud.
well, they were pretty proud of the masters, and they were really glad when I was able to graduate and get a full-time job.
Why Kansas State?
Kansas State was one of the schools that offered not only a graduate program, but I also had the opportunity to get a graduate teaching position, so it helped pay the bills. So I was a TA for 3 years with the introduction to biology, the freshman biology that everybody has to take, and had some great professors I got to work with in that program. One of my favorite stories is my third year. I had a father and son in my class. The father got an A. The son got a C. It was a neat family.
It must have made for some good holiday times for that family.
Yeah, Dad knew what the son should have been studying, and he had put his other kids through college, and the youngest one was coming to college, and he decided, it's my turn to get my degree. Mm-hmm. So he was about 50, 55, something like that, and he went back to college, and he got his degree. And so he was in my office almost every week asking really good questions, wanting to understand, the bigger picture. We had wonderful conversations, and I treasure that memory.
Nice.
So is that kind of where your love and interest in education started? Was doing that grad work and being a TA for those 3 years at Kansas State?
Actually, I started tutoring when I was in high school.
Oh, really?
They had a peer tutor program, and it was a great way for those of us who were among the more nerdy types to be able to make a little spending money and help other kids with their homework and understand, especially math. I did algebra, geometry, algebra 2, biology, chemistry, and those are a lot of the classes I still tutor today.
So you graduated from Kansas State,
Mm-hmm.
and got your master's degree there?
Right, I got my master's there.
Okay.
And then I met a professor from Oregon State University at a conference in Lincoln, Nebraska. Offered me a job, and my California friends at Kansas State, the moment they saw me even hesitate, said, "We will pack your car." You need to come back to the West Coast. So my dog, Heidi, and I got into my car, packed everything up, and moved to Oregon sight unseen.
Wow.
So drove into Corvallis, and remember the little square when we pulled in. Heidi was kind of tired of sitting in the car. She was a beautiful lab setter husky cross. Great companion. She lived to be 15. And got out of the car and was walking around that park and just so happy to be here. And it just felt like home when we got here.
How old were you at that point?
24. I was 24 when I moved
Pretty
here.
adventurous for a 24-year-old single woman to drive halfway across the country, yes?
Yeah, it was quite an adventure. And no cell phones. We have to remember that cell phones, were not the thing yet. A car phone was a big deal, and trust me, I didn't have one. So each night along the way, I called my parents. Yes, I made it to my next destination and let them know I'd gotten there. And,
Nice.
yeah.
Heidi, Heidi.
Yep.
So you pulled Corvallis, and then what happened from there?
I began work at the Oregon State University School of Veterinary Medicine. I got a job at the in the parasitology laboratory for Gary Zimmerman, who I believe is retired now. And we did work on liver flukes was one of his major areas. We did drug testing in large animals. So yes, I've wrestled around cattle and other large animals, and did some really interesting research. Also, I helped him organize symposia that involved professors from across the country in immunoparasitology. That field was just really emerging at that point. Immunology, some of the technology that allowed the study and understanding of immunological systems was just getting underway. So it was a really amazing opportunity to listen to people who were leaders in the field.
So you're kind of on the ground level then for it.
At that point, yeah, I was. It was a great opportunity. So we did publish some findings or proceedings from those symposia as well. So my name's on those.
Very cool.
Yep.
So at some point you met your husband.
About 4 months after I got to Corvallis.
4 months, huh?
4 months.
Tell how that came about.
We met at church. I started going to the same church I'd gone to for a number of years, and one Sunday there was this handsome gentleman sitting in front of me, and after church service he turned around and said hello, and asked me out to lunch. About a month later we went out, and pretty soon we started going out more often. A year later we were married.
Really?
Yeah. The funny story was our second date.
Second date, huh?
Our second date. He invited me to the Sweetheart Banquet. And this is a big deal every year for all the fire departments because they want to say thank you to the spouses and significant others that put up with them, darting off in the middle of the night and responding to calls and being gone for 24-hour shifts. Sounded fun. I'd never been to Salem except to drive through it, so gave me really, really good directions how to find Station 2 over on Cordon Road, which is where he was working. So I drive up from Corvallis, and he said meet him there at 6. Great. I thought he was getting off shift. I didn't know about the 24-hour thing. So I get there, and he's not there. Okay. Well, he was on a call. And that's when somebody said, well, he's going to be on all night. Okay, this will be interesting. So I followed him over to what was then known as the Chummery Hotel. It's now the Red Lion over on Market Street, and that's where they had their big dinner. And he had a driver, and his driver had a date, so we were all sitting at the same table. I spent more time that evening with the driver's date than I did with him because he got one call after another. After the third call, when he wasn't going to make it back for a while because of it's going to take a little longer, I needed to drive home. It was an hour or so to Corvallis, so I said goodnight and I left. The story is that when he got back, he was like, oh man, I blew it. She is never going to speak to me again. So he showed up to church the next day, and I thanked him for the nice evening. He took me out to make up for it, out to dinner, and so the rest is history after that. And he told that story the next year at the banquet.
So this would have been what year then?
That would have been, we were married in 82.
Okay.
So we actually were married just a few weeks after a little city named Keizer came into being. Because I believe Keizer, it was the November election, and we were married in December.
Okay.
So I always remember how long Keizer's been a city.
It all ties together so nicely.
It really does. It's just, yeah, fait accompli or something.
So speaking of Keizer, when and why did you come to Keizer?
Kevin and I moved here in 1989. We had 2 children by then, and our home in Corvallis was crowded, and we were looking for a larger place to live. My job at Oregon State had ended. The NIH grant that I was working under had not been continued, and so I wasn't working at OSU anymore, and he was commuting. So we thought, well, it's logical, let's move north. And so I said, well, you know the area. You know, you drive all around the Salem metro area. You tell me, where's the place to live? And he goes, West Salem or Keizer? Okay, fine. So we started going around with a realtor and looking at different properties. And as soon as we walked into this house, bam, it was home.
Really?
Yeah. It has brick fireplaces and just a vaulted ceilings with big wooden beams. You know, that wood and the furniture, you know, it's still in my blood. And we just knew we were home.
Did your kids think so?
They were little, but we remember when we moved up here, Emmeline was 2. And she was enjoying the fact that we had this big long hallway, and she ran up and down all day and wore herself out. It was adorable.
Enjoy the long hallway, huh?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a lot of space to run around. Big backyard. You know, we put up the swing set, the usual play places for our kids. What I love about our neighborhood is all the kids grew up together. All of our families knew each other, spent time together. If they weren't in my backyard, they were in the neighbor's backyard or across the street in their playing at their house. Mm-hmm. And it was a whole group of kids that have grown up together.
Speaking of kids, how many children do you have and who are they?
We have 4 children. Emmeline is married.
Is
And
it Emily or Emmeline?
Emmeline, Emilene.
Okay. So, and she's married?
She is married. She's a physical therapist, and she lives in Arizona.
Okay.
And then Alex is the next. He is has a business in West Salem. He owns the West Salem Shaolin Kempo. He's a karate instructor.
Okay.
Allison is the next one, and she has a degree in chemistry from Pacific University, and she works in Tigard.
So is it Allison? How you spell Allison?
Allison.
So she's in Tigard?
She works in Tigard.
Okay.
She still lives here in Keizer.
Well, she works there and lives here.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
The rents in Tigard are a little steep.
And then the 4th one?
And that's Elena, Alana.
Okay.
And she's a student at Shemeketa.
So are they all out of the house, or some of them still at home?
2 are still living at home. We have a big
Younger-
House.
Younger
so.
2?
Hmm?
The younger 2 are
Younger
still?
2, yeah.